skies were gray, but they're going to be sunny again, I promise you. Welcome back to Saving the California Dream special with our series producer, Heidi Kuda.
Franklin Roosevelt said he's all for collective bargaining, just not in the public sector. Some say our powerful public unions run our state, and with California cities going bust over pensions, we may be in for a long, ugly battle. Steve Malanga, the author of Shakedown, The Continuing Conspiracy on the American Taxpayer, weighs in.
California is doing as little about pensions in general as just about any state that I've seen. The whole deck has been stacked against taxpayers. These costs are going to destroy government in the state and destroy the essential services. There is no way out of this by merely taxing your way out of this or hoping you grow your way out of this. Basically, you need to cut costs. You need to restrain the growth of government.
All right, so you heard him. He's really going against what Jerry Brown wants to do. He says, Malanga says, you can't tax our way out of this mess.
That's right. Tax increases without reform won't work. But Governor Brown's new tax initiative increases taxes on California's upper income earners, some of whom talk with their feet.
Every change to the tax system is simply based upon how can we raise the most revenue? What gimmick can we use? What complexity can we build in so that people won't realize that we're raising more revenue?
You always hear people saying, tax the rich, and they feel so good about that, but what does it really mean for our state?
It's really a target that doesn't fight back, except because they'll just disappear. They'll just go away.
Texas is a very powerful economy. Yes, it has a very favorable business climate. Texas produces oil. And oil's done great. My running joke is there a Texas economic miracle? Absolutely. 200 million years ago, all these dinosaurs decided to die under the great state of Texas. That's the miracle. Simple as that. The problem in California is not that we're a high-tax state, it's that we're a stupid tax state. California is inordinately fond of high taxes on small bases. Ultimately, California offers one of the best standards of living in the United States. We go back to your high school class. Remember the prettiest girl in your high school class? She wasn't very friendly, but somehow or other she was really popular. But that's California in a nutshell. I don't care if we keep up with Texas or not. And frankly, if that CEO wants to pick up and take his company to Texas, more power to him. I'm not moving with him. But this is our state, and we should be working hard to change the state for us.
That shot of Texas was actually the Grand Tetons, not in Texas. That was Tax Attorney Bill Weintraub, who is now with us with economist Christopher Thornburg. Gentlemen, nice to have you here. All right, so I was just in Texas. It's a terrific state, but it has no ocean to speak of other than the Gulf and parts of it. But, you know, you're solidly behind the Stay in California movement, aren't you?
I'm behind the state of California, but in terms of taxes, there's a big difference between Texas and California. And a lot of people here are beginning to recognize the big difference between the two states.
Well, you got to be cautious about that. We actually did a study for the state control, and it turns out if you took the Texas tax structure and applied it to California, Californians would only pay about $1 billion less per year. We have to understand that Texas does have a superior tax system, but it's not in the quantity of taxes, but rather how the taxes are structured. They rely much more heavily on property taxes than we do. We, of course, have that crazy Proposition 13, which has forced the state to rely more on corporate and business and personal income taxes, which is a terrible way to tax. And so, you know, we're not a high-tax state. I go back to what I said. We're just a dumb tax state. And if we reform the system, we can make the state more friendly.
Bill, what I like what you said, though, is one of your clients said with what he's paying in state income tax, he could buy a new house in Texas every year.
And that's true. I think for a lot of people, the perception is the income tax is very personal. It is the personal income tax. And people tend to focus on that. So that's their perception. California costs them a lot of state income tax. And for the people who earn a lot of money, they say, what I pay in state income tax, I could buy a lot else in other states.
So they're voting with their feet, as you said. They're moving not only to Texas, but to other states like New Mexico and other places where it's a little friendlier. Florida is also a tax-free state, at least as far as state income tax is concerned. And they're doing a lot to draw people there.
It's certainly a factor, and a lot of people think about that. A lot of people who really aren't in a position to move think that they can move out of California, which is a separate issue. But the perception, again, is that other places will cost less in taxes, and people think that California is a high tax state for that reason.
But I would argue yet again, most of the reason people move out of the state of California is what you just said, is the high cost of housing. In fact, if you sort of add it up and you ask which is probably a worse problem for the state of California, again, you think about income taxes, but as you noted, the property value differences between Texas and California are enormous. And you know, if you were going to leave because you have to pay, say, an extra % in taxes, you were already left because a nice house here costs 3 times as much as it does there.
But we shouldn't be increasing them this year. Not this year. That's what we're talking about, and that I think is going to be something that you'll see with your clients. They're not going to appreciate that.
And Texas, you know, gas is $1 less a gallon.
All right.
All
right.
Guys. There you go. Now see how a businessman who appeared in this series right here got the attention of a billionaire who tapped him to take over as CEO of the Santa Anita racetrack.
Saving the California dream got me this position.
And the sky is gray. I went for